Hey everybody, welcome back to a new edition of Scene on Screen with Ned Halaby. Sitting in with me today is someone making his Scene on Screen debut. It's Mr. Dan Hendler, who is actually one of the producers of the show. It may look like it's the work of dozens and dozens of professionals and seasoned television veterans, but it's actually done primarily by, Dan and Stu, who's been on the show before, and myself, and the God himself, Eddie Gonzalez, who works down here. But today we have a bit of a departure from the average structure of the show. We're not going to be reviewing a recent release because, it's February and there's not much to see. This weekend, Fool's Gold came out, starring
And The Eye.
And The Eye.
Don't forget The Eye.
Don't forget The Eye.
It's watching you.
I didn't feel like stomaching Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson trying to recapture the magic they had. And what was the other show? How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, or 10 Things I Hate About You.
Little piece of trivia for you. Fool's Gold is the reason that you're not watching How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days 2.
Oh, that was a potential sequel.
There was a sequel in the works, now going
How
to be a
Get
TV
a Guy
show.
in 10 Days.
I think it's How to Lose It All in 10 Days. Not just the guy, everything.
How to Lose
so
Your
you see,
Virginity in 10 Days.
the stakes are higher.
The stakes are much higher, the sequel count. But that being said, The Eye, I mean, Jessica Alba's hot and everything, but I mean,
what can you say about the eye? It's a vital organ of the human body.
yes.
There was a great B horror movie called The Killer Eye, which I highly recommend to anyone. I'm sure it's a Netflix DVD.
And you realize, another piece of trivia, the eye is the only reason you're not seeing the pancreas, which is another working script that Jessica Alba was going to be a part in. But
I can't wait for that one.
Oh, yeah. But this week we're going to be talking about huge news. And all of you Seen on Screen faithful watchers may remember that during the pilot, Stu and I discussed the potential of a writer's strike back in November, and we both predicted that it wouldn't happen. Well,
how naive you were.
Here we're
and
sitting.
Now Stu is God knows where, and I'm sitting in front of the camera.
Yeah, Stu might be in Tijuana. We're not really sure where
he's somewhere.
he is.
He's somewhere. Could be directing this episode for all we know.
Don't take peyote, kids. But here, 14 weeks later, we find ourselves at the end, hopefully, almost assuredly, at the end of the writer's strike. This week, the Producers Guild and the heads of the East and West Coast Writers Guild agreed on a tentative deal that's pending approval by the members of the Writers Guild that will end the strike and bring Hollywood back, rise it up like the phoenix from the ashes of Dancing with the Stars, which is pretty much all you can find on TV these days. And here is a Hollywood insider, Mr. Dan Hendler himself, to give us the lowdown on what happened. So, what happened, Dan?
So we had showrunners go back to work on Monday. The big news was, the buzz around Hollywood Friday was that this was going to end, that they were in talks, and Monday the news broke that they had reached an agreement and that the guild members were going to vote on it. So showrunners went back to work Monday. Writers are scheduled to report back to work Wednesday, and we should be seeing some new scripted shows from what I hear in the next, I think, 5 weeks or so.
I've heard that the show writers are going to go back to work immediately, obviously, and I found today that the word is that most of your favorite shows, the ones that are already set and have strong ratings, are going to start reappearing in April and May.
Early April.
I think they're going to. Each show is going to get about between 5 and 8 new episodes before the season ends, and then basically it'll all start over again next year, as if
And Scrubs is a really interesting scenario because, as you know, they were finishing up their run, and from the word on that is they have 4 episodes that were filmed before the strike that have yet to air, and 4 more that they're not sure whether to release them by broadcast or to include them on a DVD.
That's what
so
I
you
heard
might be
too.
seeing the series finale of Scrubs
on DVD.
If that's what happens on DVD, which could be like a very
interesting
tool. Yeah, and it seems like the way a lot of the business is going these days. But let's talk about the strike for a second.
Yeah.
So we even had the strike's over. Everyone's happy the strike's over. The studios lost, I think it was $2 billion. And
that's a spicy meatball.
Yep, and the writers didn't get everything they wanted. So people are happy, but neither side comes out looking like a winner in this case. And even Patrick Verone, who's the head of the Writers Guild West, admitted that writers still weren't receiving all the benefits that they thought they should, especially the primary area that they conceded was reality television, in which you have writers working obviously behind the scenes in the shows that aren't credited. So that was the big loss. They did get The big win obviously was streaming. On shows that are streamed online that are supported by advertising. The writers do get, I think they doubled what they were getting before. Or no, they get something
get a
out of it
percentage.
now. But here's the trick. Is that they don't really get a percentage. If you look at I was reading an article about this. What it is the studios say beforehand how much money a show is supposed to make. Say like they expect a show, one episode airing over the internet to make something like $40,000. So you're not actually getting a percentage. You don't have studios opening the books and saying, oh, this is how much ad revenue we got on this streaming, this is how much ad revenue we got on this. It's just a set amount. And the writers are getting a percentage of that $40,000, which is what they agreed upon. So what looks on the surface to be a pretty good deal, when it comes down to it, is, studios get more and more ad revenue over the web, it's going to end up, looking like a very similar situation to what we had a couple months ago. And the contract, I think it's set every year it goes up. Now they're valuing shows at $40,000. Next year it's supposed to be at $60,000. But another part of the agreement, from what I read, was that the studios are going to open their books, and so the writers are going to get to see this. So I think when this contract expires in 3 years, which is the length of it, we could be seeing some more talk about. I don't think, maybe not a strike, but there's definitely, when this contract's up, there's still going to be some issues to figure out. So.
Well, it's interesting. For those of you who don't know, the writer's strike, one of the biggest problems and most divisive parts of it was that there's an argument over internet-based revenue for television now that you can watch your favorite episodes of many shows, especially NBC shows, on the internet, but you have to watch commercials with them. There's a whole new source of revenue being created, and the producers are complaining that they're not really sure how profitable internet sales are going to be and things like that, and the writers just wanted a percentage, so it doesn't matter how profitable it is either way. If you get a percentage, then if it's not profitable, you don't make much money. If it is profitable, you're included in the pizza pie. But I think it's interesting because the internet hasn't proven to be a very profitable arm of the revenue of the ad revenue game, and it's going to be really interesting to see what technological or what kind of innovations that movie and television producers make to make internet-based revenue more profitable, because right now no one's been able to figure out how to wire everything into a computer.
Yeah, and what we've been seeing too lately is a lot more embedded advertisements in shows. Like a lot of Heroes did the first season 2 premiere sponsored by Nissan, commercial free, and 24 I think did it a couple times sponsored by Chevy. And that's happening more as producers look for more innovative ways to incorporate advertising into the show in ways that time displacement technology and illegal piracy can't eliminate. We're going to start seeing more of that. And how do you value that into the show? Because networks are getting a lot of money from these people from advertisers that are putting their product placement into shows. So I think that might be another issue that could arise.
I think whether or not it's considered categorically a win for either side, I think something that I've read is that the fact that the writers had such solidarity throughout the course of the strike, and that there wasn't very much picket line crossing that wasn't already sanctioned, I guess, when certain writers for Letterman came back. The writers negotiated with Marvel Studios for their own contract before the strike ended, so superhero movies could move forward without the strike ending already. But it showed a remarkable amount of solidarity between not just the writers with themselves, but the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild were very much supporting each other. The Golden Globes shut down, which caused, I heard, hundreds of millions of dollars in losses for everybody from caterers to limo companies to television revenue lost. I mean, losing the Golden Globes was
that was a disaster.
Huge disaster.
And I think it really showed to people too how ubiquitous the writer is in Hollywood. Is that a lot of people don't know that the Golden Globes and award shows and things like that are scripted a lot, so. And look how, in my opinion, awful the Golden Globes was. You just had a guy reading from an envelope. So.
I I have a problem with the Golden Globes in general.
Yeah,
because,
not that they're the pinnacle.
They're terrible. It's the most self-indulgent night in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You have this ambiguous group of people, the Hollywood Foreign Press, deciding on who's in the. It's just basically a warm-up, like we talked about. I predicted Atonement would win the Golden Globe for Best Picture, and accurately. On this show,
That's why this show is the best movie review show that you could possibly find anywhere in the
Absolutely.
world.
Who's
Definitely
more
in the
attractive,
country.
Siskel's passed away.
That was in poor taste, my friend. Let's move on.
Ebert or
let's
Mr. Hendler?
leave this behind us. I don't even want to answer that
My
question.
condolences to the Siskel family. Why are we laughing? But in short, the Writers Guild is practically over.
The writer's
You will
strike.
not if the Writers Guild, the Writers Strike is practically over. Heroes, for all you Heroes fans, will be back. The Office.
The Office has got 6 new episodes.
Will continue to sort of go downhill. We won't get into that.
And for Stuart Friedel, who I know is the biggest CSI New York, but not CSI Miami fan in the world, there will be new episodes wherever you are right now. Don't worry.
Stu, Hannah Montana is coming back soon, okay? You can get your Miley fix. Either way, after the break, we're going to take a look at the Oscar nominations, where Stu might or might not magically appear out of Tijuana's sunset and come and join me on the show, and we'll do some Oscar predicting because we were so good at the Golden Globes one. So stick around. Thanks.
See you guys.
Welcome back to Scene on Screen with Ned Halaby. Stu Friedel has reappeared out of the mist to join me again for
the movie, The Mist.
The Mist, yeah, the Frank Darabont. God, what happened? I don't know, 4th time he's been on the show, 3rd time. He's a staple here at Scene on Screen. We're going to be giving our Oscar picks, and before we do, Stu is going to give his brief summation of next year's probable Best Picture candidate, Hannah Montana 2, Meet Miley Cyrus.
You're a little
3D.
bit off there. You're a little bit off. But, the Best of Both Worlds.
The
Hannah
Best of
Montana.
Both Worlds tour. I'm sorry.
Okay, here's my shtick. I'm going to give you real quickly. 3D is the wave of the future. We got the new Indiana Jones movie. We got the Jurassic Park movie.
Indiana Jones not going to be in 3D, is it?
I heard it was a while ago. I don't know if it still is.
Maybe.
If it's still being planned or not. But they're re-releasing the
Avatar.
Toy Stories. Avatar.
That's going to be a benchmark of 3D.
They're re-releasing all the both Toy Stories, releasing the 3rd one in 3D. I think after WALL-E, I have a feeling that most Pixar movies are going to be in 3D. We're looking at a resurgence that, you saw the shtick back with House of Wax in that era, the early horror movies and things like that. And
With
kind of
the
failed.
blue and red glasses.
Yeah, but now we're looking at true 3-dimensional 3D, not 2D planes that extend. And frankly, Beowulf was fantastic. I think Robert Zemeckis was the right person to bring both that story to the screen and to bring 3D into the mainstream. I was expecting to hate that movie. I saw it after a lot of people recommended it to me, and it was truly incredible. I did not see the U2 movie. I instead opted to see Hannah Montana for obvious reasons. I like the TV show.
Who could blame you?
But also, I was hoping to get a good taste of the movie. I saw it with Dan, who was just on the show a moment before. And we were both really, really impressed with both the technology and Disney's business model and what Disney does, the synergy that they use. We were, I think, a bit disturbed by the fact that you could see, at least we think, some of the shots were reshot in the studio and not taken from live. Some of the best 3D shots were redone in the studio, we think. But overall, I mean, truly a great movie experience. We saw the 9:40 showing on a Wednesday, so there weren't a bunch of 11-year-olds or 8-year-olds or 5, I don't know how. They weren't singing along with the music, as I assume they were in other theaters that weekend. But nonetheless,
How pervy.
nonetheless, we truly thought it was worth our time.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. She's going to be a rich, rich young woman. When she turns 18, I got.
Well, achy breaky heart. I mean, the family's already set for life. So.
And he probably copyrighted the mullet too. That's got to be profitable. Anyway, moving on to Oscar nominees. Recently released for the February 24th telecast, which now will be written with sanctioned writers and actually will be worth watching. I'm excited. I'm happy. But let's go with Best Picture. Best Picture, we got Atonement, Juno, Michael Clayton, No Country for Old Men, and There Will Be Blood. I've seen 3 of these, Juno, No Country, and There Will Be Blood. I am truly conflicted. I'm thinking I want No Country for Old Men to take it away. I loved There Will Be Blood. I got to go with No Country, though.
I personally want No Country. I think No Country was a better movie than There Will Be Blood, but I can see why There Will Be Blood will most probably win this category.
Why?
It deals with a more timely issue, which, people in Hollywood like that, which is kind of sad because No Country for Old Men is a flawlessly executed movie, as we discussed a few weeks ago on the show when the movie first came out. It's, in my opinion, truly a better movie, but There Will Be Blood is one of the best movies I've seen in the past 10 years in theaters, No Country being the best I've seen in the past 10 years in theaters. It's a little bit something different. There Will Be Blood. The Coen brothers do this a lot. They will claim never to be directors that pay homage to genres or to do genre flicks, but really they're students. Who? The Coen brothers.
You think they claim that they don't do genre picks?
They claim they don't. They obviously do.
Oh,
but
I've never heard that.
They're obviously students of film. I think that's where they get a little bit confused. Is that to them making, and I kind of agree with this, making a film. I think this is what they're thinking, that making a film by studying other films is different than making a genre pick, right? And I think that's like, I guess I was wrong in saying they don't pay homage, because I think they do recognize they pay homage, but I think that in their minds, paying homage and making a genre pick are different things, and I have to agree with that. And I think that No Country for Old Men is a classic, perfect movie. There Will Be Blood, has this biting score, this really deep, incredible but biting score, this more swooping feel to it, this bigger feel, this it's just more poised to be a Best Picture winner in my mind.
I agree. I think both films challenge the audience more than Best Picture nominees in the last few years, I think, have. There's something so haunting about both of them, but particularly There Will Be Blood. The pacing is so slow and so deliberately slow, and the story is so epic but so intimate at the same time. It's such a character study of Daniel Day-Lewis's character, oil baron of the early 20th century, and it's so excruciatingly directed. The cinematography is just fantastic. I think it'll walk away with cinematography. Not that There Will Be Blood had. No Country had extraordinary cinematography as well. I mean, that might be the race of the night for me in the cinematography field. Let's see who else. The Assassination of Jesse James, Atonement, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, and then No Country and There Will Be Blood. That's a tight race.
I would, if I had a vote, I'd be voting for No Country in that category as well.
Wow. Well, I would go with There Will Be Blood, but disagreement is the lifeblood.
I would like to say that I am embarrassed about how many nominations Juno got.
I am mortified
that it got Best Picture nominee. I hated that movie, and I was explaining to Dan earlier today. I went out of my way. I was on a road trip the day that movie came out. I went an hour out of my way, which is 2 hours total, because I have to go an hour out and an hour back to catch that movie. It was a packed house, and I didn't sit with my friends because they were sitting further back than I wanted to sit. After the movie was over, everybody applauded. I was appalled that everybody was applauding. I stood up, went outside, found my friends, and I said something like, I'm the only person, when that movie ended, I was the only person in that theater that wasn't clapping. And they were like, well, that's funny because we walked out 25 minutes ago. And everybody else seemed to love that movie. I don't get it.
I'm not going to say I hated it. I did sort of hate it, but I'm not going to say that because when I walked out, I thought, that was a cute love story. That was sort of like a cute little, whatever. But a Best Picture nominee, a like 7-time Oscar nominee. God. This is the new trend of what I like to call indie blockbusters. A film that is so
Little Miss Sunshine.
The film was marketed as this year's Little Miss Sunshine. How disingenuous is that? It's such a terrible marketing tool that treads over real indie films that struggle to get finance, struggle to use actors that you might not expect. I mean, everything was so deliberate about this. Allison Janney playing the sort of quirky mom.
The typecast, Michael Cera.
And the dialogue.
The dialogue was a bad, less forgivable version of Napoleon Dynamite, which is one of my least favorite movies of the past few years as well. But the thing that really bothered me is Kimya Dawson and the Moldy Peaches, one of my favorite bands, and now I cannot hear the Moldy Peaches without thinking of that movie.
The film had the most annoying soundtrack of any film I think I've ever seen. I can't think of a film that had a more annoying soundtrack than
It didn't fit at all.
It didn't fit at all. It was so... I mean, the use of this kind of indie music, the cute rhyming, indie sort of songs, coupled with this kind of movie, it's just so deliberate. It's not even cute or ironic. It's so deliberately executed as to take away from the indie-ness of the film. I hated Juno. I'm not gonna say I hated it, but I did. That's my review.
I had a
of
huge
it.
problem with the ending, which I'm not going to say on screen.
Don't give
but
it away.
I also, I mean, like, God, Little Miss Sunshine, I really liked. I really liked Little Miss Sunshine. I'm not gonna like pretend like I didn't, because I thought that was a very good movie. I don't think it was worthy of a Best Picture nominee last year. I do think it was one of the top maybe 10 or 15 films of last year. But Juno was one of, besides Enchanted, which is a whole other story. It's probably my least favorite movie of the year. And Enchanted was one of the other best reviewed movies of the year. So.
Well, we just buck the trends here at Seen on Screen. We have to move on. I mean, we can't really move on from Juno because it's nominated in friggin' everything. Directing, I think that's another two-way race. Actually, Julian Schnabel for The Diving Bell and the Butterfly could sneak in there. I don't think he will, just because the achievements of Paul Thomas Anderson and the Coen brothers are, I think these two films will be talked about in 20 years, 30 years as excellent, in the scope of time, excellent films. You know, films that stick out from this era in film. But I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Coen brothers.
I'm gonna go with the Coen brothers as well. I want them, and they're gonna take it. I think.
I think I'm rooting for them too. Nothing to take away from Paul Thomas Anderson. He's proven several times how talented he is.
He's incredible.
Boogie Nights is one of my favorite films.
Agreed.
Actor in a leading role, you got George Clooney, Daniel Day-Lewis, George Clooney for Michael Clayton, excuse me, Daniel Day-Lewis, There Will Be Blood, Johnny Depp, surprisingly, another sort of comic role that he's getting an Oscar nomination for, like the Pirates of the Caribbean, Tommy Lee Jones in the Valley of Elah. Who saw that movie? I don't know. The three people, I think. And Viggo Mortensen, who we both loved in Eastern Promises. The film itself, not so strong, but his performance was very, very legit. I think Daniel Day-Lewis.
I mean, I don't think there's any question in anyone's mind, but if I had a vote, I'm not saying I would, I might go Viggo Mortensen. But his performance was unbelievable. But Daniel Day-Lewis everybody else seems to think it was hands down the greatest performance ever. I thought it was unbelievable. It was incredible. But I think that Viggo Mortensen's was just as unbelievable and just as incredible. And if I think something's rated at 100 but it deserves an 80, and something else is rated at a 60 but it deserves a 79, I'm still going to give it to the 80 over the 79. And I think that that I probably would have to go with Daniel Day-Lewis, even though I think Viggo Mortensen is right up there with him.
I agree. George Clooney came out this week and basically conceded publicly that Daniel Day-Lewis is probably going to win. Who knows? Maybe that'll happen. I'm pulling for Daniel Day-Lewis just because I was just floored by his performance.
He's incredible. He's an incredible actor.
He's an amazing actor. Actor supporting Casey Affleck, Assassination of Jesse James with a Coward Robert Ford, longest title ever. Javier Bardem, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Javier Bardem in No Country, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Charlie Seymour.
He was in 3 movies this year, so we gotta be specific.
Yeah, that's true. Hal Holbrook, Into the Wild, he was fabulous, and Tom Wilkinson and Michael Clayton. Javier Bardem.
Yeah, you know what? The one performance this year that I can flat out say was the best of the year, in my opinion, blew Daniel Day-Lewis and Viggo Mortensen out of the water, was Javier Bardem.
I will agree with you. I would say I thought Javier Bardem in No Country was one of the best performances I've ever seen. One of the most that I was personally watching the film, every time he came on screen, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I got scared. I was terrified because I knew something terrible was going to happen as soon as he walked on screen. He had that kind of effect. And there's something so ruthless and so like dead on about his appearance and his performance that just it's got to be the Oscar. It's got to go to him. Mm-hmm. Actress in the leading role: Cate Blanchett, Elizabeth the Golden Age, Julie Christie. From Away from Her, Marianne Cotillard in La Vie en Rose, Laura Linney, The Savages. Stu's got a little crush on that film, and Ellen Page in Juno. That's a strange race, I gotta say. I haven't seen any of these films except for Juno, and Ellen Page was great in it. I can see her talent.
She might take it, honestly.
I think she might walk away with this one. She has chops. As much as a problem I had with the dialogue that she was speaking, I thought she had a good performance.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with that. She was definitely the best part of the film, was casting her. Mm-hmm.
I'll agree.
But it'd be very tough for me not to at least put in my vote for Laura Linney. I
think you should. Just to move along quickly, Cate Blanchett, second nomination for I'm Not There. Ruby Dee, an American gangster playing Denzel's mother in that film. Saoirse Ronan for Atonement. Amy Ryan for Gone Baby Gone. And Tilda Swinton for Michael Clayton. I'm hearing great things about Cate Blanchett's performance, and I'm not there.
Really?
That's what I've heard.
I've heard Amy Ryan, that this is going to be her category. I don't know enough about this category.
In Ben Affleck's directing debut,
which
Who knew?
I have not seen.
I have not seen
heard
either.
is unbelievable. It was like that was during our fall break that movie came out. It was conflicting times. That I've heard is incredible, and
I've heard nothing but good things
can't wait to
about
go
that
see
too. Good for Ben. I've always been a Ben Affleck fan. As much as people gave him so much crap because he was dating Jennifer Lopez, and yes, he did get annoying to
He did
everybody else.
Geely, he did Jersey Girl.
He did lots of crappy movies. I'm not saying he didn't, but
Daredevil.
I've always been a secret fan of him.
I mean, Dazed and Confused.
With honors? No, not
The
honors.
Matt Damon, Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, another movie with Brendan Fraser. School Ties.
Yes, incredible movie.
One of
Seriously,
the best explorations of anti-Semitism.
Exactly. We watched that in Hebrew school for like every year. He did a lot of good Kevin Smith movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
He was Mallrats. He was one of the best parts of Mallrats.
and he did Good Will Hunting.
And he did Phantoms. Extraordinary film.
There you go.
Is there any other categories?
I'd just like to give a shout out to animated feature Surf's Up getting a nominee. Dan and I worked on Lisa Dario and Joe Syracuse's last movie before Surf's Up, which was called Gossip.
We got Dan Handler's in
Give
the
props
house.
there.
I'm going to go with Persepolis. I haven't seen it.
Oh,
but I love-
Ratatouille is gonna
Ratatouille
take
will
it.
probably win. My father is obsessed with Ratatouille. Watched in the theater. Bought the DVD. Bought the video game.
Wow.
Weird, right?
And that is, I'd like to point out that Enchanted nominated 3 out of 5 times for original song. I'm going to give it to Once, though. I'm going to say Once takes that one. That's a
I
call
liked.
I'm making
Did you
right
see
here.
Once?
No, that's my first on my list.
It's pretty good. It's a little slow, but it's got some great music in it. I would not be surprised if Once, maybe Enchanted will split the vote. It's got 3 nominations. That's generally a bad thing.
There Will Be Blood should have been nominated for original score.
Wait, it's not?
Atonement, Kite Runner, Michael Clayton, Ratatouille, and 3:10 to Yuma.
I'm gonna do that. That's pathetic.
And screenplays, best adapted screenplay. I'm gonna go with No Country.
Definitely.
Although There Will Be Blood, it's
Also
gonna be the two of
nominated.
them.
Wow.
And then best screenplay original. You know what? I'm gonna say it now. Once Juno beats out the Savages, I am.
Burning down the Hollywood
mean,
sign with me.
We can't leave this paper trail, but there's something that will be done once Juno beats out the Savages, and I can't.
I'm gonna make a very bold prediction. It's not even that bold. It's actually the opposite of bold. Juno will win the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. It will.
It will.
And I am going to burn down the Hollywood sign.
It's pathetic. I'm hoping Ratatouille pulls it out and says. Did you read the article? There was an interview with the director of Ratatouille. He was saying how
Brad Bird.
How it wasn't fair that they couldn't be nominated for Best Picture. I completely agree with that.
The Beauty and the Beast, the animated Beauty and the Beast, one of the very few films, animated films to be nominated for Best Picture. Didn't win, but it was nominated in 92 or something like that, as far as I remember. The only one. But yeah, there's so many lines in Juno where I just cringed and thought,
Home skillet,
your ego is prego. Oh, God.
What other shenanigans could I get up to?
It's never been a film where I want to strangle the writer.
Diablo Cody, the ex-stripper turned screenwriter.
And her name is Diablo Cody. It's just too perfect. It's just such an indie world that Juno lives in.
Where people give Dawson's Creek flack.
Yeah.
Come on.
Everybody writes like they're an indie film writer. Or everybody speaks in the film like they're an indie film writer, and doesn't fly with this film critic. We're running out of time, so we're gonna come right back after this for a brief little segue into something I want to discuss. So stick around. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Seen on Screen. For the last couple of seconds of the show, I want to talk about something that's very important: the Mighty Ducks trilogy, specifically the cover art of the second 2 films. Can we notice the gratuitous amount of bubblegum chewing that's going on here? I don't understand why they're facing off like with their bubblegum bubbles popping, and then literally 3 out of the 5 members of the D3 box are chewing bubblegum and blowing bubbles with the bubblegum.
Harkening back.
It's something
to the
I've
D3
always
box.
wondered about here. I don't know if you can see it. I can see it. You can see it if you ever pick up the VHS or the DVD
Or
titles.
the DVD. Or I had the D2 poster in my room freshman year and sophomore year. I think it's still sitting in my closet now.
D2,
but, that
fabulous
you
film.
can get them on eBay. D2 is a film that when I first discovered that you could hear pay-per-view without paying for it, you just couldn't see it. I just left the scrambled D2 on my TV for like the 2 weeks that it was on pay-per-view and just listened to the movie.
I did that with pornography.
Well, that's the difference in where
And
we
you
are
could
now
sort of
in life.
see, you can sort of see
See the discrepancy.
where's Adam Banks, man?
Oh, thanks.
Where did he
that
go?
cake eater.
The cake eater, no one knows where
Where
he
is
got. I don't
Danny
understand.
Tamborelli? I will answer you that. He is in a band called Jounce. It's a jam band based out of
Jounce.
New Jersey.
Nice.
They used to be called Special Brew. They changed their name recently. But Danny Tamborelli, is he even in the second and third one?
No, I think he's only in the first one.
What about
he blew up with Pete and Pete.
Luis Mendoza?
Also known as
in Sandlot.
Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
That's a good place to end tonight's show. I'm Ned Halaby. Every week we're here sitting down, going over what we want to go over in the film world. I love today's show. I thought it was a great show. Very funny.
9 o'clock.
Catch us every week, 9 o'clock, CCTV Channel 28. It's also available, hopefully, at ClaremontTelevision.com.
2 T's, Claremont.
Claremont Television, 2 T's, exactly. And join us next week. I'm Ned Halaby.
Apologies to Gene Siskel.
Our apologies to the Siskel family. That was not cool. All right. Take care. Booyah. Wait, can you press stop capturing or whatever?
Yeah, escape, I think.